Sometimes when I say that I could be, sometimes when I want to make any mistake for my life because I'm not at all being able to make any mistake about life because I'm too much high five for making any mistake for myself. I could be making everybody else to making no kind of a take in their life. Rather, they could be making all these kind of a take that is being kind of accountable as mistake of some of my big skills or somehow because I'm not at all giving everybody else to some kind of a chance to make themselves being about to say that they could be not at all saying what is that kind of a mistake that has been being kind of like in their mind or making in their life miserable for this kind of a like well days or maybe what has been kind of a transforming some kind of a foes to friends. Never be the case because they could be turning the friends to foes has always been the case because I could be not at all giving everybody else any chance to survive for themselves and I could be surviving my own ways to making nobody else to survive what is they could be like thinking they could be surviving themselves for. But at the same time I'm not at all willing to say that I could be making mistake for myself or not or maybe not or maybe not I don't know what, but definitely there's some kind of like excuses for myself because I could be always like using myself. I could be used to being past everybody else opposed to defender or be past the defender because I could be pre post past whatever kind of a case or whatever kind of a situation to be in there kind of like fit of the moment. I could be not at all enraged over this kind of like nick of the prune of the time. I could be giving everybody else a hard time for their lives because I'm giving on everybody else no sense to survive because I'm not at all survival mode for everybody else excluding myself for a note because I'm not because I could be not at all surviving everybody else's rest of time because I could be like already pre-survived already post-survived already momentary surviving every kind of a like ways that is coming to my days because I'm not at all trying to take myself because I'm not at all taking on everybody else. I could be like standing on myself for not at all working on myself or not, but definitely not at all working on everybody else. I could make everybody else do work for themselves or not, but definitely they could be do make work for themselves and never because they could be making do work for myself when my sake for I could be making on everybody else to do whatever they will be thinking they could be like doing for themselves or rather they could be doing the harm or with the bad for themselves. I could be giving them bottom every time because I'm not at all providing them any kind of top or any kind of like recluse any kind of like say to make sure that they could be giving themselves being any kind of a days to make themselves not at all any kind of base because they could be receiving that kind of a like confrontation myself for because I'm trying to get in themselves like hyper or maybe like hyper activity or maybe kind of like fly high for themselves for because they know they will be surviving matters of time. I could be giving on everybody else no kind of issues no kind of ways that they could be not at all being kind of like at the envisage for themselves at the same time motion for themselves to make themselves being about the fact that they could be not at all earning the money for themselves. They could be earning the money for myself or for my swagger to make myself doing the best for myself at the same time not at all letting on everybody else to say or maybe not at all letting anybody else to survive, not at all letting on everybody else to eat, not at all everybody else being led by me to kind of get in the soul being kind of do the digging or maybe hunting for each other for maybe whatever kind of a ways to make sure that they could be doing every kind of a thing that has to be like pre-planned by myself before the camera and nothing has been kind of a hidden off from my eyes because I could be not at all providing any kind of a safe privacy life for everybody else. That's why everybody else or any kind of a like wishes or maybe any kind of a like whatever kind of a make wish to or maybe any kind of a like say they could be like asking for any prayers from my side that has been not at all viable or not at all kind of a like takeable, not at all kind of a greetable, not at all kind of a like pluckable, not at all kind of a receivable by my side because I'm not at all going to receive all this bullshit that has been kind of ill from my side. I could be like sending it back across from this place where it came from because I know whenever they could be trying to do some bad to the top they could be receiving the same more than that impact on themselves. That I am not at all being kind of a concerned about anybody else because what is kind of a concern for me I'm not at all concerned for everybody else but not at all for myself or not because I could be not at all concerned for me. I could be concerned for everybody else and not at the same time because I know that I won't be having to be concerned for myself at the same time because I'm doing best for everybody else and not but definitely for myself better than the best for myself but I'm not at all concerned for everybody else because I know that they won't be having to be giving this prioritizing about the fact maybe this kind of a demeanor of their mind or maybe the kind of a face that they could be doing the best about to look the part to make themselves being not at all being do to do or maybe not at all being need to do because they could be not at all look after for everybody else. They could be looking at you, they could be saying that they could be like trans based or maybe kind of a cis trans whatever kind of a thing. They could be not at all any kind of a mind boggling issues for themselves to make any kind of a commuting because they could be coming to their studios, they could be coming back to the home, they could be taking off the makeup and they could be looking at themselves at the mirror feeling the same. Never be the case. They could be like feeling like some bullshit and when they could be like letting on themselves being not at all feeling the bullshit bullshit about themselves at their mind. They could be feeling things kind of like straggly, kind of like outdated, or some kind of like haggard for themselves because they're not at all any kind of like mischief about myself. They're not at all a crazy stuff, not at all freak to make sure that they could be like letting me enjoying themselves, or letting me being like I could be like feeling some kind of like much more inclination towards anybody else to make sure that I could be using them for my own entertainment purpose. What is needed to be done is like I'm just like said before, I could be like using them for this kind of like way to like themselves being kind of like leaking on themselves first, and they could be leaking on one another of their types, so they could be getting themselves being kind of used like brutally for myself or my self-interest to get themselves being kind of used to like making them employed to earn money for myself waste, because nobody else including police could be surviving any kind of a test of time. They could be getting themselves being kind of killed about my situation because I'm not at all killing on everybody else. I could be like killing on these people that could be coming by my side. I could be getting on everybody else to make themselves willing to the could be not at all willing to make any kind of like progress in their mind, and everybody else who's trying to say something. I could be killing on everybody else even before they could be taking a birth, maybe before they could be taking a warning from everybody else, but whatever kind of warning that is being kind of like given or maybe indicated on my side, because I'm not at all alarming, not at all surrounding my ways to come across this kind of a path, or maybe everybody else who's in my kind of a vicinity in my path. I could be letting everybody else go, like block off, like eradicating off everybody else. Like I could be getting myself being any kind of a thing, like not at all a part of my being never be the case, because I'm not at all being any kind of a shaming or maybe body shaming for myself. I could be killing on everybody else to say that they could be not at all doing the best for themselves for, because I could be giving them no reason to survive in the mind, or it could be not at all being giving any reason to survive in the kind of a like socialization of their lives, because I could be having to be getting themselves being done whatever I could be telling them. I could be making on everybody else to say that they will be never be able to do whatever needed to be done, because they could be always like willing to come across any kind of a sales. They could be having to be asking for some kind of a like bullshit base that is not at all being kind of a safe to say, or maybe kind of a like safe to say, because I could be not at all doing it safely for myself, because I'm playing it on the kind of edge of myself, or be communicating on everybody else to make sure they could be like trying to do like rocket for themselves for, and I could be not at all letting in themselves to do this kind of a move. I could be like clogging their foot on the floor so as to make sure they could be not at all doing the best, rather they could be not at all doing the worst at the same time. They could be losing the time, and they could be making themselves feeling like miserable at the midst of this kind of tempest, because I'm not at all trying to get myself being kind of out of my kind of like closet, or maybe out of my kind of like sphere, or maybe ricochet of myself being, so as to make sure that I will be feeling the bumping of myself up against me at the same time for, because I could be doing this kind of crazy stuff to let on everybody else to go pick up a dick on themselves, or make a like wish for themselves, so as to make sure they could be getting their own mother's cunt, biological mother's cunt in their on their kind of a dick being fitted in some kind of a ways, and not at all being kind of able to like being plucked off, being kind of a clubbed off, or being kind of a like taking off for a spree or whatever kind of a spring. I could be letting themselves being kind of a doing the bad for themselves, never be letting on everybody else to do the best. I could be killing on everybody else on the matter of the fact, because I'm not at all trying to say what is being kind of like up above in my mind, or maybe in my kind of mind to say, because I'm not at all monthly, or maybe kind of like mounted by myself, because I'm not at all in a monthly basis to say that I'm not at all saying what is not at all being kind of willing to make any kind of a transgression, or any kind of like progress, any kind of like mentioning, or any kind of utterance from my side, because I'm not at all getting any kind of like ways to like on everybody else to say that they could be talking some kind of a bullshit. They're not at all a part of my kind of like shit, because I'm not at all trying to getting everybody else to say that they could be doing some no kind of like issues for themselves first, and every kind of issues that is coming in my ways, I could be killing on everybody else to say and do that they will be not at all being able to do what is needed to be done, because my rap is not at all any kind of like matter of the like some kind of like joke for everybody else, and not at all a hoax, not at all a parodying, not at all any kind of like mockery for everybody else, not at all trying to get myself that I could be getting on myself, because I'm not at all kind of like getting myself being kind of like gay, or be kind of being kind of like homo at the same time, because I'm not at all trying to survive only on momos at the same time, because my demos for everybody else is not at all kind of a demonic in my mind, not at all demeanor of mine, any kind of like better for myself, or knows are not better, I could be getting on everybody else, getting themselves being kind of better than everybody else in every aspect, every sphere, or any kind of more than that, because I'm getting on everybody else way to say that they could be saying this stuff, this not at all being kind of like my ways to making themselves being kind of scripted, kind of like scripturally, right? Because I'm not at all kind of scripture in my mind, because I'm not at all kind of like serpent, not at all kind of like serpentine in my ways to come up about what is needed to be having like made, do and done, whatever. For me.